Okay, let me know when.
So the recording pending. All right, there you go. Yeah, you can go ahead and start.
Okay, very cool. So I just want to start things off with like a fun fact. It takes an average of 12 minutes for the hiring manager to say, okay, I like this person. I want to hire this person. And when you think about it, the technical interview hasn't even started. Um, the technical part of the interview hasn't even started. So they don't know anything about your ability, but they've already made a decision about you in their head. Um, so, we can argue that the behavioral component of the interview is way more important than the technical component. In fact, they've done some studies that suggest that once the interviewer makes a decision that they like this candidate, they actually help them out more during the technical part because they want to push them through, kind of. So, if you want to set yourself up for success, that's why it's a good idea to think through the behavioral part of the interview first. So this is the Interview 101 seminar. And that's what we're going to be talking about, the behavioral component of the interview, presented by CougarCS in the spring of 2021. My name is Adil Iqbal. I'm the director of tutoring, and I have some bullet points on this slide, and I'm just now realizing that it's a flex, but that's not why that's not why it's here. I'm just trying to highlight that I've been interviewed lots of times, and I have a non-zero amount of experience in this arena. So I won't just be sharing the stuff that I've researched for this talk, but also hopefully some of my personal experiences. So y'all don't make that mistake. The mistakes that I made in the past. Um, I've split this up into 3 segments. So before the interview, during the interview, and after the interview. And what you're going to notice on this slide is that before the interview is really big, and during, and then slowly but surely your workload gets lower and lower as you progress. And that's very important because you're going to set yourself up for success before the interview even begins. So there's a lot of footwork that you need to do before the interview begins to make sure that you do well on the day of. And this is not even a comprehensive list. I haven't included, the technical interview stuff here. This is just for the behavioral component. Okay, so before the interview, your goal at this point, before the interview begins, is to optimize the chances that you're going to succeed on the day of. So everything you do has to improve your chances when you're in there. If you're doing something that doesn't improve your chances are you're wasting your time, and that's a good rule of thumb. And the very first thing I want to talk about is your mindset, because there's some people who, when they're thinking about an interview that's coming up, it's all or nothing. Like either I get this interview or I fail and my life is over and the sky is falling and all of that stuff. And that is the worst approach you could have. A much better approach is, hey, I'm about to go into an interview. This is a great, opportunity to not only get a job, but also to learn something about how to do interviews. Because you're going to have many, many interviews throughout your life, and you're running a marathon. You're not trying to sprint. So slow down, chill out a little bit, and have a growth mindset. I can't stress this enough. I mean, you need to have a growth mindset if you want to be a good programmer, because otherwise you're just not going to improve on anything. Somebody breathed. Anybody have a question? Okay, never mind. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is scheduling. After you have gone to the career fairs, you've talked to the recruiters, maybe you've done like a phone call interview with the recruiter, maybe you've done a HackerRank quiz with the recruiter. At some point during this process, they're going to send you an email like this that says, hey, we want to schedule a video interview with your hiring manager. Please provide some dates and times. Sometimes they'll have slots, other times they'll lock you in. But if they give you an option, how do you choose the option that's right for you? And that's what I want to talk about. So when you're picking a date and time, the worst thing that you can do is to think, hey, what will the interviewer or the recruiter think of my time selection? And the reason I'm even talking about this is before I got the Build.com internship, I was interviewed by Chevron, and the recruiter told me that, hey, we have these time slots. I have 10 a.m., I have 2 p.m., and I have 8 a.m. By the way, we're having a really hard time finding somewhere for 8 a.m. And I thought like a dummy. I said, hey, let me be a team player here. I'll do the 8 a.m. meeting, which is horrible because number one, I'm not a morning person. So I woke up like at 8:05. I'm waking up at 8:05. I'm not in the interview yet, mind you. I'm groggy as all heck. My wife is scrambling, trying to get the baby ready for the daycare. There's all this noise going on. The house is still dim because we haven't turned on any of the lights. It was just an absolute disaster. So I would like to advocate: choose a distraction-free time. Make sure you're awake and alert. Make sure you have the time to prepare. For that Chevron interview, I probably had like a hoodie, and my hair was still a little bit ratty, and it was just Hindenburg level disaster, So make sure you have time to get yourself ready for it. Business hours are typically best. If they're doing an interview, I had a buddy who had an interview for a startup at 10:30 p.m. at night, and this was a Houston company, so there's no time zones involved here. That's a red flag. Try to make sure it's during business hours. And one note is avoid the lunch hour, especially 11:30 in the time zone that this interview is occurring, because you don't want to be the thing standing between your interviewer and lunchtime. They're going to be rushed. They're going to think of you as a nuisance. So try to avoid the 11:30 hour if you can. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about interest. When you're interested in something, you typically try to seek information about it. So if you're emailing this company and you're telling them, hey, I'm really interested in this position, and then you show up on the day of the interview and you don't know anything about the company, you don't know what their customers are like, you don't know what their tech stack is like, you haven't looked anything up, your questions are all cookie cutter questions, they're going to know you're BSing. So you really, really, really need to do your research so that you're not feigning interest, that you're actually interested. And likely, if you are interested, you've probably already researched the company beforehand, before you even walked into the career fair, really. But let's clarify why we're doing the research. We're doing it because during the conversation, you're in the interview and you're doing the conversation, you want to drop these little nuggets of information to signal to them that, hey, I'm really attracted to your company. I've looked up information about you. And this research that you're doing is also to formulate meaningful questions. And one of the easiest things to do is to go to the company website. If you go to the company website, you'll immediately know what product they're producing, who their clients are, what kind of departments do they have, is it machine learning or what have you. So like for Build.com, for example, I went to their website and I found out that they're doing fraud detection. And I dug around on Glassdoor and I found out that they're using machine learning for that. So that piqued my interest. And I walked into the interview about questions related to machine learning. I said something along the lines of, hey, I see you're doing fraud detection. What kind of inputs are you using? Is it the geolocation of the particular transaction, or how are you detecting that? And then we got into a conversation about neural networks somehow, and it was really cool. It was a really cool question to ask. Like we were riffing for a good 3 minutes on that. Another thing is you don't have to research long. This shouldn't be like a full day affair. I mean, just 10 minutes on LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Google reviews, on the company website. 30 minutes tops. that's enough to give you the information you need, because they know that coming in, you probably are not like a super fan or anything. And the type of information you're looking for are shallow level, like what kind of technologies are they using, what is the value that the company provides to their customers, and try to find some common ground with the interviewer, because it really helps when you guys can riff on something and just build a little bit of a bond going forward. It's going to help you in the technical interview as well, because the more they can relate to you, the more they're going to try and help you through. Alrighty. Okay, I'm going to spend a good amount of time on this particular slide, because there's females on this slide, but at the same time, this applies for males as well. So don't think about gender too much here, but you want to dress in something professional yet comfortable. For this presentation, most of your interviews are probably going to be remote, so I'm focusing on that. But try to make sure your dress is appropriate for where you are. So if this is an in-person interview, you want to be decked out in professional clothing. I'm talking suit and tie, three-piece suit, maybe a pantsuit, a dress skirt, that type of thing. But if you're at home and this is a remote interview, you can dress a little bit more comfortably. What's interesting is, while I was researching this, the articles that they published about dress code in February and March, when the COVID was kicking off, was like, hey, wear a suit and tie, three-piece suit, be decked out while at home. And the articles that are published nowadays are like, no, business casual is fine, you're at home. So the current advice is business casual if you're at home, and decked out professional if you're on site. And here's some things you probably didn't think about. So the video encoder does a lot of optimizations during a remote interview. But if you have like a busy pattern on your shirt or your whatever you're wearing, the video encoder is going to have to do a lot more work to send the correct data over to where the interviewer is. So it's going to cause lag, and it's going to reduce performance, and your audio is going to start skipping and things like that. People don't think about it, but it's real. It's real. It's a very big concern. So try to avoid super bright colors. Try to keep it flat and professional. And for the same reason, wrinkles are now super bad. They were bad before if you had wrinkles on your shirt in an interview, because you look like a schlub. But if it's a remote interview and you have wrinkles, even if it's a flat color, your encoder is still, jumping through all these hoops to send data, and you're reducing the, video quality and your audio quality. At the same time, you look like a schlub. It's super bad to have wrinkles. So, iron things out, steam press it if you need to. And here's another thing. So you're going to be tempted to, wear pajamas waist down, and dress well waist up. That's also bad, because at some point you might have to stand up, and if you do that, you'll immediately torpedo your chances. So the current advice is, if you're doing it from home, ankle up. Yeah, make sure you're dressed professionally, ankle up. And if you're on site, you have to be decked out 100%. So hygiene. One thing about hygiene is people think that, hey, I don't have to worry about how I smell because they can't smell me. So let me just wash my face and comb my hair and stuff like that. But if you feel grimy, your performance during the interview is going to go down. You won't be as awake or alert. You won't feel confident. So, do the whole shebang. Shower, wash your hair. If there's any guys listening, use the shampoo and conditioner in separate bottles. Okay. So let me tell you a story. Okay. Before I got married, I used to do those all-in-one solutions like Old Spice, shampoo, conditioner, body wash, everything in one bottle, and I thought, wow, I'm so smart. And then I got married, and my wife threw that out, and she's like, "You're using shampoo and conditioner in separate bottles." And I tried it out, and I got so many compliments about my hair. So I'm not saying rethink your life. I'm just saying that's my experience. So think about that. Also, you want to brush your teeth because even though they can't smell your breath, you might have stuff stuck in your teeth. And so check your smile, pick things out. It matters a lot. Your smile matters a lot. Okay, so makeup. This is kind of an area where I don't have a lot of expertise, but what the current advice is, I did a lot of research for this, and what the current advice is less is more, and it's for the same reason you're using flat colors. You don't want to distract the interviewer from the content of your character. You want to keep them focused on what you're saying and who you are, and not necessarily on how you look. There was one article that really put it well. They say you want to be, you don't want to be attractive, but you do want to be appealing. So less is more, and the same goes with jewelry. If you want to wear jewelry, that's great, but try not to make it distracting if you can avoid it. And here's what I mean by business casual versus business professional. The casual is you're home and you're wearing like a nice comfy shirt, but it's a polo shirt. It's not, a ratty undershirt or a bro shirt or whatever. Same with the ladies. You want to make sure you're wearing something nice, but optimize for comfort a little bit because you're at home and it's okay. Nowadays, interviewers are also working remotely. Like hiring managers are software engineers at that company, and they're working remotely as well. So they'll probably be dressed down as well. They'll probably be wearing about the same thing. So you're okay to do business casual if it's a remote interview, but stress enough if you're on site. You really got to get decked out and look the part. Okay. So here's another thing you can do to optimize your chances for success, and this is a step that you don't want to skip. So you try to find out what platform you'll be having the interview on, whether it's Zoom or Teams or Google Meet. And on that platform, you want to be able to check that your microphone is working and that your webcam is working. If it's possible, have a friend help out and check your audio quality, video quality. And another really important thing, whether it's in person or remote, make sure your phone is fully charged, fully functional. Because if, God forbid, there is a technical hiccup during the interview, you can use your phone to quickly contact the recruiter, let her know what happened, and troubleshoot as you need to. Somebody breathed. Everyone okay? Any questions?
I'm just catching up my breath.
Oh, it's cool, man. Okay. So another thing, I didn't actually put this on the slide, but I read about this several times as I was researching this topic. But your Wi-Fi signal, you might think that it's a fixed. You can't really do anything about your Wi-Fi signal, but there actually is things that you can do. You can tell everyone in your house that, hey, I have an interview from this time to this time. If you guys don't mind staying off your devices, just don't do anything with your phone. Don't do anything with anything. Just sit down, watch a Netflix movie, and that's fine. And if you do that, it'll increase the bandwidth coming to your laptop or your PC, and now there's less of a chance that you're going to have technical hiccups. I didn't write that down, so I will do that before I post a link to the slide. Sorry about that. So let's just do a quick experiment. Which of these two guys are you going to hire? Is it this one or this one?
Oh wow.
This one
Second
or
one,
this
for sure.
second one? Yeah. I mean, it's the same dude, but it shows you the importance of lighting. You typically don't want lighting immediately behind you. You want it to be just in front of your face. And you want to try and get as much light on you as possible, because if the interviewer can see it, they'll feel a lot more comfortable. And I also want to take a little bit of time to mention that the background also matters. You want to make sure your background is neat and clean. They know that you're home and they won't judge you too harshly, but you don't want it to be so messy that it torpedoes your chances. Right now, the current wisdom is that either have if you have a neat and clean background, that's best. If you don't have a neat and clean background, then try to use one of those filters that blur your background with something. That's second best, and the third best is going to be having a messy background. That's your least priority. Try to clean things up. If you can't position yourself so that your background is just a wall with maybe one picture, that way the interviewer doesn't get distracted by extra things. So I'll put the background in there, and let me take a quick breather. Please enjoy this content.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much.
Bro, that's freaking hilarious. That's so funny.
Yeah, that's my that helps me.
What a knee slapper, dude.
Yeah,
I
thank
can't
you.
breathe, bro.
Yeah, I know, right? This is the best. Listen, I spent a good 5 minutes picking this meme out. So
No, it's a funny meme. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Yeah, that's easy to do, I've been told. I do want to mention one thing on this slide. So we didn't talk about this, but you want to be prepping your questions and your answers beforehand. That's part of your interview prep. And another thing I haven't talked about is technical interview prep. I'm going to go into detail on March 8th. We're doing a HackerRank workshop where we're focusing just on the technical interview and the things you can do to optimize your chances there. Believe me, it's not fixed. Like you're not necessarily doomed to do poorly on the technical interview. So give me 2 seconds here, y'all. Alrighty, let's keep the show moving. Any questions? Should I pause for a little bit? No? Okay, let's keep it going, guys. Okay, now we're in during the interview section. Keep in mind, there's 2 prep items that we haven't talked about, which is what questions do you ask and preparing your answers. So the first thing I want to talk about is soft skills. Some people don't know what soft skills are. So a hard skill is something like coding or woodworking or something that you need like formal training for. But soft skills are things like, hey, I have a conflict with someone. How do I resolve that? Or having listening skills, managing your time well, and communicating effectively to people who have varying degrees of information about a topic. So those are all things that you might not see on a job posting, but people actually really want folks with soft skills. And this is a lot of times they're foreign students, like people from India. I can speak about people from India and Pakistan and stuff like that because I'm from that world. But I'm sure Asian students and other foreigners probably have this issue where they're whip smart when it comes to technical interview stuff. They know like the big old time complexity of all these algorithms, but they can't communicate well like they can't relate to the person in front of them. And those are soft skills. So if you're lacking in soft skill, it doesn't matter how smart you might be. You likely will not be a desirable candidate, because a lot of times these companies are team efforts, and they need to know that you can function as a part of a team. So what do you do with soft skills? Show the employer that you have soft skills by demonstrating them right off the bat. So what I mean by that is, greet your interviewer warmly. Don't just get into the business of doing the interview, but take a second or two, a minute or two to chit chat. How was your day? How's it going on? How was that power outage, man? That was crazy. Just chit chat. But if you talk about things where you have common ground, you're gonna create a bond, first of all, a little bit of a bond, and that interviewer will help you out as you go into the technical phase of the interview. And both behavioral and technical are important. You have to do well in both segments to get the job. So try to set your technical stuff up for success by try forming a little bit of a relationship with your interviewer beforehand. Something that I have problems with is adding pauses every now and then. I'll start railroading people when I talk to them sometimes, and I've been told that that's extremely rude and that I should add pauses. So that's something you want to do. And this isn't a business meeting, so please feel free to use light humor and joke around here and there. I mean, it's totally fine. Likely, they're probably going to do that too. And while you're doing all of this soft skill stuff, it's a great time to learn something about them. So try to figure out some details and just put it in your back pocket for maybe it's something you can drop later in the interview. And one thing I didn't put here that I will absolutely include is show up 10 minutes early, because if you show up late, even by a minute, they're gonna think, okay, this person's time management is, I guess, acceptable, but is it optimal? Like, you want to be in that call before the interviewer even shows up. Like, when the interview logs in, you're already there, kind of. So time management is a soft skill, and so make sure you're on time. Okay, confidence. This is an area that people have problems with as well. So confidence is the act of trusting yourself. If you're shy and bashful and uncertain about the way you speak, you're showing the interviewer that maybe you don't trust yourself. You're signaling that to them subconsciously, and they will have problems trusting you if you do that. So being confident is super important. You can do that by making eye contact. How do you make eye contact via camera? Is to look directly into the camera. It's going to seem really weird for you because you can't really see the interviewer, but on the interviewer's end, they're going to see you looking directly into the camera. They're going to see you looking directly at them, and they're going to see you meeting their eyes. So it does convey confidence. Okay, posture makes so if you're slouching, that conveys weakness. Don't slouch, please. Lean back, shoulders up. It's hard to maintain throughout the whole interview, especially if it's like an hour, but give it your best shot. And while you're in the interview, while you're in the room with the person, or you're in the call with the person, from beginning to end, think positive thoughts. If some part of your interaction is a little bit awkward, don't let that deflate you. Just hop right over it and find your footing, and you'll be just fine. By far the biggest thing you can do to help yourself seem confident is to practice your answers before the interview. I'm literally speak them out loud with a paper in front of you and practice. So what is that going to do? Let's see, what's a good analogy? Okay, so have you guys ever been using a Mac or a Windows laptop, and as your computer is processing something, you see a spinning wheel on a Mac, or like the hourglass on the window?
Mm-hmm.
You know how that feels annoying?
Mhm.
So when you're talking and you're saying like taking pauses to think of an answer, those ums and those ahs are kind of like that spinning wheel of death. It's annoying for the interviewer to hear that, and you come off as unsure when they are hearing too many ums and ahs. So one thing you can do is, type out your answers, have the answer in front of you, and practice before the interview. Also, all of your other preparation items, checking your equipment, dressing well, that's going to help you feel confident too, because there's less that can go wrong. Another really big thing is, and this goes to your mindset of, hey, this interview is not the end all be all. This is just an opportunity to learn. The more interviews that you're in, the more experience that you have with the interview process, and the more confident you will be in the interview. So all of those things help you, at least look more confident. Fake it till you make it. If you're not confident, that's fine, but at least try to appear confident if you can. Again, that doesn't mean that you're not being genuine. You be yourself, but the confident version of yourself. Why is this slide in here twice? Okay, I freaked out for a second. I thought there might have been a glitch. Okay, so I said you got to prepare your answers beforehand. How do you know which answers to prepare? There's some questions that they'll come your way that, there's no way to really prepare for them, but there's some that are so common that you can prepare for them. So for example, if somebody asks you, tell me a little bit about yourself. Well, that's something you can prep for, like have a little blurb, or an elevator pitch ready for that particular question, because that gets asked all the time. And there's a really good web, like my wife runs this a professional organization called GTZ. It's for geologists. It's not for computer scientists, but she had this person on called Amanda Rico. So if you go on YouTube and search GTZ forum Amanda Rico, this lady is stellar. I mean, she'll tell you how to put an elevator pitch together that'll blow everyone out of the water. And I haven't put it in the resources slide, but I'm going to put it in there for you guys just in case you want to look that up. But the questions that you can prepare for are the situational questions. So these are questions that begin with, tell me about a time when, or give me an example of, have you ever, describe an instance where you've had to. Those questions are your canonical behavioral interview questions, because they're trying to figure out whether you have soft skills, whether you have hard skills. Do you actually have the experience that you've put down on your resume? So those are the types of questions you're going to get. And I'm going to show you a list of those types of questions in a little bit, but it's important to talk about how you answer these. So there's this acronym called STAR, where if you answer these behavioral interview questions in this format, typically you're going to make the best impression, because you're going to talk about hard skills, you're going to talk about soft skills, and you're going to talk about experiences that you've had, so they know that you're not just like a rando person that just started freshman year and you don't have any experiences whatsoever. So this is the format in which you want to answer that question, and you can prepare these and practice these before the interview begins. So I'm gonna take you through an example real quick. So here's a question that you might get. Tell me about a time when you performed under enormous pressure. Okay, so how do you answer that? Well, first you hit them with a situation. One time at my last job, my coworker had a family emergency and needed to miss work for some time, and their super important project was left unfinished and without a manager. Hit them with the task. My supervisor instructed me to take on the project, and with no leniency on the deadline. I had days to complete a project that originally should have taken weeks. What did you do? Well, I requested and was granted a reduction in my weekly goals, allowing me more time to attack the special project. As far as my weekly goals, I was able to delegate them out evenly to some of my teammates. What was the result? Well, with the reduction in my daily goals, I was able to dedicate more time to the special project. This allowed me to finish it on time and with complete accuracy. My supervisor appreciated my attitude and drive, and I was given several more projects after that, along with an eventual promotion and pay raise. So one thing I want you to glean from this star story is that it can be used for a variety of different questions. So you could use the same star story for a question that says, hey, tell me about a time when you had multiple different deadlines and you were and you had to juggle your time. How did you go about doing that? You could use this exact star story for that question as well. So the current knowledge is try to have at the very least 2 star stories prepped beforehand before you walk into the interview, and you should have enough ammo no matter what star story comes your way. No matter what behavioral question comes your way, you'll be able to answer it with the stories that you've prepped. Ideally, though, you want 4 star stories. Okay, but two is enough if you're on a time crunch. So I'm spending a little bit of time on this. You guys should get the signal that it's pretty important to have these stories on hand. Oh boy, man, I should have put a meme here. Guys, give me a second or two.
Take your time, man.
Shubha, you're the best. You're the best, man. I'm starting to feel lightheaded, y'all. Okay, let me keep going. Okay, so when you're writing a star story, try to be specific and matter of fact, meaning you don't want too much fluff or chit chat there. If you look at the 3rd bullet point, you have to kind of deliver that story within 3 minutes. This shouldn't take much time. If you kind of spend like 10 minutes on a star story, you only have an hour with that person. That's 1/6 of your whole time with that person. At this point, you're eating time out of your technical interview. You're kind of screwing yourself there. So try to keep it 3 minutes or less. The example that we just went over, that was 30 seconds. So it's the timing of these things matters a lot, and that's why it's very important to practice. Literally write it down first, and then practice it over and over before your interview. You want to be able to add details into your star story, because the more details that you add, the more you validate to that person that you've actually had this experience. Like, it becomes more legitimate in the person's mind. So the star story I read before, it was very vague. It says, a special project. I delegated some of my weekly goals. Like, what is a weekly goal? What is a special project? So that sample star story was actually really bad in this way. But try to have details in there. And you want to make sure you hit hard skills as well as soft skills, or at least subconsciously signal in the star story that you were using your hard skills. Also, another mistake that people make when writing star stories is they start focusing on other people in their company. Please don't do that. You're trying to pimp yourself. You're trying to market yourself, not necessarily your company that you're working at right now. So each star story you write can be the answer to multiple questions, right? At least 2. We already talked about that. So when you're writing a star story, try to look up some behavioral interview questions. And I have a link in the resources slide that lists like 10 or more behavioral interview questions. Look at those questions and try to construct a story that'll fit for as many questions as possible. So no matter what behavioral question you get, you have the ammo for you. Your star story can handle that question. And here's the most common ones. By far the most common one used, and it's so commonly used that 40% I would give this number, is tell me about a time you had a conflict at work. That one comes often because they really want you to have conflict resolution skills. If you don't, that signals to them that you might be a tough person to work with. And you detail a mistake you made and how you reacted. I put this one in here because I wanted to talk about questions that kind of throw you off, that make you like feel bad a little bit, and they're trying to see how you they're trying to see how you handle situations like that. So if you hear like a question that about maybe one of your mistakes or maybe something you did wrong, first of all, take a quick second to restabilize yourself, and then downplay the mistake and play up your solution to that mistake. So you could say something like, "Hey, I made this mistake that ended up in production. It was a pretty nasty bug, but what I ended up doing was I stayed up all night debugging. I got some of my other coworkers involved. We workshopped some solutions, and we deployed a solution the next morning, and the bugs that was introduced was resolved almost as soon as we found out that it was there." So that's how you handle questions like that. Play up your solution and play down your mistake. So just don't let them tilt you. You don't want to be tilted ever during that 60-minute period. And you can look at the rest of these questions, but these are just a sample of some of the behavioral questions that you're going to get. Okay, so I just want to give you an example of one of my star stories. I probably a silly one, probably, but it got me an internship, so it did work. But the question I got during the Build.com interview was, can you give me an example of a time when you met a really difficult goal? And so what I responded with was, so at my job at GeoNotebook, our customers needed a way to batch delete multiple projects at once. The problem was that each project they deleted needed to be JSON serialized just in case that delete action was done in error. And sorry, guys, I got a call. And the issue that we had was if you delete many projects at once, that's going to cause a delay because that's big O n times n or n times k, where k is the time of serialization. So I was tasked with finding the right balance between customer satisfaction and performance, because each project is really big with lots of moving parts. So what I ended up doing was I consulted the team and researched how this problem was solved in other applications. I also informed the CTO of pros and cons of each approach, and then I did some internal testing on each of those approaches. And the solution that we implemented was to allow users to batch delete a limited but generous number of projects at once. And since we implemented and deployed that solution, our customer base has given us lots of positive feedback about both the performance and the functionality. And we did all of this while retaining the ability to restore deleted projects if ever the need arises. And notice that took me about like a minute and a half to see that star story. It sort of talked about a little bit about Big O and serializing and stuff like that. It talked about teamwork and those types of things. Communication skills. So I talked about my soft skills. Any star story you write, talk about hard skills, soft skills, and try to stick to the format if you can. Okay, at some point, the interviewer will ask you about, hey, do you have any questions for me? And I really like this quote from Cracking the Coding interview. I consulted that before I, wrote down this PowerPoint. But what the book says is, the quality of your questions will be a factor, subconsciously or consciously, in their decision. So, don't just ask cookie cutter questions. Try to use your research to form questions that are a little bit more pertinent. And you can sort of signal, there's three types of questions that you can ask. You can, ask a question that demonstrates your interest by showing that you have some knowledge of the company. So I noticed you guys are doing X. Which technology do you use to implement that? So maybe you did some research beforehand. So the fraud detection is a great example. And I noticed that you guys were doing fraud detection using machine learning. What are your inputs? That's a way to signal that you have interest, get a little bit of a conversation going. Another type of question is something that demonstrates passion. So, hey, let's use a machine learning example. I found out that Build.com had, machine learning going on. And, I asked, I'm really interested in machine learning. Like, what kind of other opportunities do you have in this area besides fraud detection? And, then the guy started riffing with me about other things that we're doing. And that was really cool. But obviously, the main reason why you ask questions is to gather information. And you keep in mind, they're not just interviewing you, but you're also evaluating the company. So, like, a really good question to ask would be, ask the interviewers, hey, what brought you to this company, and what's challenging for you? What's been challenging for you since you started working here? That's a really good question to ask. It sort of gives you a little bit more information about the inner workings. Maybe tease out some red flags. If you look at the resources slide, it will have a link to 51 other questions that you could potentially ask. So review that as well, if you want to come up with sort of insightful questions to ask. Oh boy, man, I needed this meme. Where's my laugh track, Vanessa? Where's the laugh track? Oh, I don't get one this time.
This is so funny, dude. Oh my god.
Thank you. All right, very cool. Do I have it?
Good.
I like this meme. I think it's funny.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, it's very nice. Do I have anything I need to? I can't stress the importance of practicing, y'all. You got to practice those answers.
But what if I've never had an experience like that?
Mock
What if
interviews.
I've never had a job before? I feel like a lot of these are dependent on you having prior work experience.
Oh, yes, a lot of them are, but keep in mind, you don't have to use your prior job experience necessarily. You could use contributions to like open source projects. Maybe you were working on a personal project with somebody else and you had a conflict with them. You could use that, for example. Maybe there was a group assignment in class. You could talk. That could be a star story. And here's another thing. This is a risky thing to do, but sometimes you gotta fake it till you make it. So maybe sort of construct one and use that. I mean, I don't recommend it. If you have a genuine story, use it because that'll reduce the risk. Because if they ask follow-up questions on a fake story and you can't field the follow-up questions, you're going to end up torpedoing your chances almost immediately. But if you can't think of any star story, fake it till you make it. Y'all, give me a second, man. I'm getting lightheaded.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
Take your time, man, for real. Like, it's cool, bro. You can take a breather.
I appreciate y'all.
It doesn't have to be a computer science work experience either. I would suggest, like, even if you worked at like McDonald's or something, or any type of group setting, it doesn't have to be work either. Like any type of group work that you've done with other people and you had some issues, you can bring that up as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Don't just pigeonhole yourself into computer science. It could be McDonald's, especially if it's an internship interview or an entry-level job interview. They know that you probably don't have lots of experience in the computer science, so you've got lots of options. All right, let's keep it going because we got about 30 minutes. And I want a little bit of time for more Q&A. Okay, after the interview. So at this point, you've prepped, you've executed the interview, you've said your goodbyes. How do you optimize your chances of getting the job after the interview? There's two things you can do. The first one is to write a thank you note. And a thank you note is just, hey interviewer, thank you for interviewing me. That's silly. It's got to have some kind of function. So the two things you want to include in your thank you note is one, you have to write about something that reminds them of you. So that little nugget while you were chit-chatting, or maybe an experience, like a funny joke that you guys shared during the interview, you know, remind them about that joke, or remind them about, you know, something during the interview, so that that person knows that this thank you note, who this thank you note is from. Then you want to take this opportunity to write about something you forgot to mention during the interview, or something you want to clarify that you didn't get a chance to do in the interview. If the interview gave them, yeah, I'm messing up. Okay, if the interviewer gave you their contact info, go ahead and send them the email. But most of the time, they will not have given you their contact info. So how do you get this thank you email to the interviewer? Send it to the recruiter and ask them to forward it to your interviewer. And I hope that you wrote down your interviewer's name, because you got to mention it in the recruiter email. That, hey, can you please forward this email to so and so, just to let them know that I really appreciate their time. And so use that thank you note to maximum effect. Okay, the goal of the thank you note is to remind them that you exist and that you're super duper interested. So a follow-up timeline. This is a very aggressive, because what people are recommending online. But let me give you the recommendation that other people are saying in articles. They're saying follow up in 2 weeks, and do it every 2 weeks for 2 months, and then quit. I'm more aggressive. Like I'm trying to get paid, y'all. So what I do is I would follow up every week. And follow up means that you're talking to the recruiter, asking for an update on the application process, by email and by phone call. Like I will call the recruiter and be like, hey Michelle, any update on that process? And if you call, it's a little bit more aggressive, but at least they'll know that you're super interested. And I would do it every week for the first 2 weeks, then every 2 weeks for the next 2 months, and then every month for the next 6 months. And like I would be super duper aggressive about it. But after 6 months, if they're not coming back to you, or if they haven't sent you a rejection, then chances are you did not get the job. And I added this slide literally 5 minutes before I hopped on the call, because my wife just had this experience where she got passed up for a job that she really, really wanted, and she just couldn't focus all day. And this happened today. So I talked to the CEO of my company. We were just chit-chatting, and he said something pretty poignant that I just wanted to share. He said it doesn't matter how many times she hears the word no, she just needs one company to say yes, right? So your rejections they don't matter. They don't think of, you have a growth mindset. They're like, and if you have a growth mindset, no's are going to be like, hey, either I get to get a job that pays a lot, or I get to learn something, and this is also a slide that I added. Rejection is not an indictment on your value as a candidate. There could be many, many reasons that they rejected you. It could be that there's budget constraints and they just have to get rid of some positions. But what you should do with that rejection is to figure out if there was anything you could have done differently to improve your chances a little bit more. And that could be, hey, jumping on LeetCode and doing more technical interview questions. It could be, hey, 2-star stories aren't enough. I should probably have 4. It could be something to do with time management. It could be something to do with distractions. But try to analyze what happened and improve your chances for next time. And another thing to keep in mind is that you're not in this alone. In the resources slide, I'm going to point to some resources that will absolutely improve your chances going forward. And the last thing I'll say is we didn't talk about the technical interview at all. That's because we're doing a whole talk just on that. And that's going to be during the HackerRank workshop on March 8th. It's going to add to your prep a little bit, but I promise you, the technical interview is very, very doable. And in fact, it's a lot more doable than people think. The questions that you get asked on the internship and entry-level job technical interview they have a common theme. So if you have just a few skills under your belt, you should be able to handle any technical interview question that comes your way. So please do come to that workshop. I think it's going to help. Okay, so this is some of the resources I was talking about, and I might just end up adding more to this these Google Slides after the fact. But it's important that you have crystal clear video and audio quality. And this webcam, it's a little bit on the expensive side. It's $70, but if you think that it might get you a $90K job somewhere or an $80K job somewhere, then that $70 is totally worth it. So don't think of this as an expense. Think of it as an investment. That's the one I recommend. So if you want a list of more behavioral interview questions, so as you're coming up with your star stories, you can design them to be a Swiss Army knife if you know what behavioral interview questions are coming your way. So this is a link to a few behavioral interview questions. As you're formulating questions, here's an article that talks about what kind of questions you can ask by category, and there's a lot of them, a lot of really good ones. And my advice here is to take some of the questions that these guys are suggesting and make it specific to the company that you're interviewing with. So here is a link to the Amazon for the book Cracking the Coding Interview. I researched over a lot of different articles, and I also read I have 2 or 3 books by a few people that talk about this interview topic. But Cracking the Coding Interview is very, very comprehensive. So this is a link to Amazon where you can buy it, but some scoundrel has put the PDF online, and they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And that's my opinion on that. Just in case, some of you guys may be from foreign countries, you may not have the soft skills needed to finesse. Like, you might be great when it comes to algorithms and stuff like that, but it's called social dynamics. You might not be great with social dynamics. So I wanted to point you to a YouTube channel called Charisma on Command. And what these guys do is they talk about social dynamics and little things you can do to make sure your social interactions are going super smoothly, that you're coming across really well. And like, I watch the channel a lot. I don't know if it's helped me, but it sure has helped me get a job. And here's the guys who run this YouTube channel, Charisma on Command. They actually have a pay-for service called Charisma University, where they have essentially a course that can help you improve your social dynamic skills. And I haven't used it, but I do have a cousin who is from India. He's on a green card, and yeah, he's a robot. This is one of those guys who will ace every test. He can write code blind. He knows every algorithm. He's top 5% on leak code, but he is just an absolute robot. And he actually purchased Charisma University, and he has given me a lot of really positive feedback about it. So if you have lots of difficulty with social interactions, consider a pay-for service, because honestly, that's not something they teach you in school. I mean, hopefully, as you're working on group projects, you pick up on things. But if you need a more formal or a more rigorous way to learn it, this is a great place to go. I don't have a thank you for coming slide. Crap. All right, well, I screwed up there. Anyways, thank you for coming, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, Adil, do you have the feedback form with you?
Yes, I do have a link to that, and I'm sharing my whole screen, I think. So you guys see me doing all this stuff.
And also, like, one way to get used to selling yourself and doing good on behavioral portion of the interview, I would say, is to get used to talking to people and just I would suggest like maybe talk to strangers. Every time you like go out somewhere, try to have small talks with strangers. That's a great way to pick up conversations and show your recruiters or interviewers that you're an easy person to talk to and work with. So I would suggest doing that as well.
Yeah. And I just want to open up the conversation for a second. Did you guys find this talk helpful? Like, did you learn something new from it by any chance?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a little intimidated because my problem, as it always is a lack of experience. So it's like, damn, how well can I do in an interview if I don't have a lot of experience in the first place?
Oh,
it's like catch-22.
It is a catch-22, but Vanessa, if you're doing an internship interview or an entry-level interview, they expect you not to have a lot of experience. So if the only thing you have on your resume is, oh, I worked at McDonald's and I know these languages, and I have a bachelor's. If that's the only thing you have, then you can spin it so that you can sort of pimp out what you do have instead of lamenting over what you don't have. And another really awesome thing is volunteering. If you volunteer in organizations, like I prefer CougarCS. I really like CougarCS because they helped me get the Bill.com interview, and that's worth like $15,500. I mean, it's a game changer. Like, my family is not dipping into we're not having to dip into our savings this year. Like, my wife lost her job, so like we might have had to dip into our house savings, but we don't have to do that now because of CougarCS. So you can volunteer with CougarCS. It doesn't have to necessarily be tutoring, but you could maybe help out with activities or something like that. They also have after school STEM coders. So you can talk to Udalagi. He's a really cool that's a really cool person that might give you an opportunity to volunteer. That's something you could put on your resume. As far as jobs, I do recommend applying to at least some internships and just trying your hand, because you'd be very, very surprised. My wife went to a career fair not expecting anything. She's like, oh, I'm into data analytics and I have all this geology stuff in my resume, so nobody's going to hire me. And she just went just for the sake of going. And she ended up in an info session with this company called TPH. And just 2 months ago, they sent her an offer letter for a $27,000 internship opportunity. And she thought she was never going to get anything, that she was wasting her time with the whole career fair thing. So don't beat yourself down. You'd be surprised. A lot of people think that, oh, I'm never going to get it. Why even try? It's so pointless. Let me just, woe is me. But if you go, you might be pleasantly surprised. And, the worst thing that happens is you get a little bit of experience with a career fair, or you get a little bit of experience with an info session, So always, think positive and just go in there and let's see what happens. And on the background, try to accrue. Volunteer experience is a great place to start. And on the back of the volunteer experience, you might get an internship, and that'll give you some more experience. And then on the back of that, you might get an entry level position, and that'll give you more experience. So it's kind of like an incline. Start with the easy stuff, just volunteer, use that to get your internship, then use that to get your entry level. And you got to do some footwork, but you're gonna get there. So guys, please unmute yourselves. I'm really, I'm not gonna harass anybody if y'all have questions or anything like that.
Loveline asked, what if you have work experience and they're all teaching based?
That's great. Oh my God, Loveline. Okay, I'm gonna talk to you about something. Okay, soft skills are super desirable. Okay, so if you have teaching experience, what that means is that you can communicate with people at different levels of knowledge. I'm a project manager right now, and I'm doing very little coding. Like the work that I do right now is I'm talking to clients who know nothing about coding, and I'm trying to explain to them that, hey, we can add this feature, but it's going to add to your bill because it takes a little bit longer time. And it's a very low level, you're kind of trying to teach them a little bit about engineering. And in the very next meeting, I'm talking to like a full-blown senior software dev. And to them, I'm trying to explain to them what the client's requirements are and what their business model actually is, so they can implement the right thing. So with teaching, you have to be able to spin this stuff. With teaching, you can say, look, I have experience communicating to people with a varied knowledge base. I have experience communicating very complex topics in a way that's understandable to a large number of people. I have experience managing my time by building a curriculum, and this is something that I can easily translate into, into a more engineering, in an engineering role. I workshop all of my teaching with other teachers, so I have a lot of experience working in a team dynamic. What I'm doing right now is I'm going into, let's say you're in an internship for a software dev position. You're saying, I would like to utilize some of my new skill sets in coding, and also utilize the skill sets that I've been using thus far with teaching, and use those together to provide value for your company. You can very easily sell teaching, okay? So don't stress yourself about that, okay? Sales is all about spinning what you have into something that somebody wants. You can't be doom and gloom about the skills that you have. Try to use them to full effect and try to accrue new experiences that you can spin to, advance your position. This is a marathon. It's a marathon. It's a chess game. It's not checkers, and it's not a sprint. So, does anybody else have any other kind of questions that they might have? I'm more than happy to ask anything.
Yanli, I hope I'm saying your name right, is asking, how do you become a CougarCS tutor?
Oh, hey, I'd love to answer that question. So I have a lot of people on the docket right now who have applied, but so I might take some time getting back to people, especially because it's exam time, and I also have presentations, and I'm also working, and so there's a lot going on in my life. So you got to give me a week or two, maybe 3, to get back to you. But the very first thing is I need you to fill out a form. So DM me on Discord. So on Discord, my name is Adil-Iqbal, 0376. DM me, and I will send you, like, for example, let me see if I can find somebody. Okay, May applied to be a tutor, and she's gonna tear my head off because I've been, oh man, I've been really. So I sent them this link. Say, hey, fill out this application, then DM me your real name so I know which application is yours. If approved, and when I say approved, I just have to make sure that you're not subject to any disciplinary action, like no Title IXs or stuff like that. Last semester, we had a tutor who was whip smart, but he had a Title IX, like he harassed somebody. And we got rid of him as quick as humanly possible, but you can't have disciplinary action on your record. So that's what I'm checking when I say if you're approved. Another thing we look for is you cannot have anything less than a B- in any computer science related course. So if you, for example, want to sign on to be a tutor for 2430, but you got a C in 2440, well, you can't be a tutor for 2430 then, because in your most recent semester, you got a C in one of your computer science classes. So just make sure you're making a B or more in all of your computer science classes. I don't care about your math classes, but the computer science classes have to be a B or higher, no C's. So after that, we jump on a quick 5 to 10 minute call, so I can show you what our process is. And then if you feel like, CougarCS is the right place to be, like I know you have other options, like after school STEM coders is another option. And this is the guy you want to, person you want to, like his name is UTLAGI, but he's a director of tutoring at another club. And you could always message him and say, hey, how do I become a homework helper? They call them homework helpers. How do I become a homework helper for after STEM schools coders? And he'd be happy to help you there. But once we do a 5 to 10 minute call, so I get to meet you, know who you are, I know who my tutors are. Then if you decide you want to be a good fit, I'll give you the tutoring role, and you're off to the races.
I have a quick question though.
Yeah,
sure. Say you have A in 2430, but a C in 2440. Would you still not count that as a valid submission?
So if it were me, I would absolutely count it as a valid submission. The problem is, the reason we have that requirement is because we're trying to mirror the requirements that the Department of Computer Science has for mentors and TAs. The issue is, like, if I mean, you can tutor for us, but that's an unpaid position. It looks great on a resume, and I'll write you a letter of recommendation and all that good stuff. But we're not paying you, and really, you should be paid for the time that you spend. So we want like TAs to be like the TA position to be a stepping stone, and so when you apply to being a TA, they'll see that, oh, this was a CougarCS tutor. I know that he meets the minimum requirements because this guy was a tutor at CougarCS, and plus I have somebody I can contact me. And by the way, there's some people, Abdullah Sama and I shouldn't be giving names, but there's some people who did apply for TA positions, and Mariana came to me and be like, hey, what do you know about Abdullah Sama and this other guy, Matthew P? Screw it, I'll just tell you their names. I told them that these are great guys, they're top notch, and blah 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 blah, and it looks really good on their application. So we want tutoring to be a stepping stone for you guys, and we want it to look good on your application, all that good stuff. That's why we have those requirements. It's not to hurt you, it's to help you, and also provide a good service for people.
Hey Adil, good presentation by the way. I had a question about the general question is, tell us a little bit about yourself. So how do you personally go about structuring the answer of it? Because I know if it's your screening interview, that's kind of like your sales pitch, and you want to take some good amount of time to talk about there. So if you can share what the way you structure your answer, it might be helpful a little bit.
Yes, I would absolutely like to share my answer, and my answer is that that question is asking you for something called an elevator pitch, and an elevator pitch is extremely important, not just in interviews but in career fairs when you're talking to recruiters for your LinkedIn. It's great to market yourself to literally anyone. So that question, tell me a little bit about yourself, is the topic of an entire 1 hour talk. And just to make things easier, that talk has already been done by someone who is way, 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 way more smarter and more experienced at this. So it's a 60-minute talk, and this is GTZ Forum, and I'm going to link this in the chat. Amanda Rico, and this is the person I consulted when I did my elevator pitch. So Amanda Rico is here. This is the one. Is this the correct one? Yes. So I think this is the same talk, but this is the one I want to send you to. You see, I've watched this video already because this is what my elevator pitch is based on. Stop. Okay. So I'm gonna elevator pitch, and instead of bogging you down with what my advice is, I'm going to defer to her, because she has it's like a 3-step process where she gets into the psychology of the person who asked that question, and she helps you construct your elevator pitch in such a way that it's maximum impact. So please keep that in mind, guys. So I linked it here. Likely I'll need to put this in the Google Slides as well. So let me just do that. And I'm gonna let you know. Wait, how do I?
I think one more thing you should think of is like you shouldn't say like or have one elevator pitch for everyone. It depends on who's asking, what you're trying to get out of the conversation. So if you're looking for like a internship position, you want to make sure that what you say, how you introduce yourself, makes you look like a good candidate for that position. So think of that when you go about creating the elevator pitch.
Yes, that's very wise. So one of the things that Rico talks about is having a like a foundation. So build out your elevator pitch like 80% of the way, and then the last 20% save it for your specific application. And she'll go over that talk. Please, it's super important because this is how you get to the interview stage, is by having a good elevator pitch. And then in the interview, if they say, tell me a little bit about yourself, just toss them your elevator pitch. That's good enough because it'll cover all the bases.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would talk a little bit about it, but I know for a fact that I'd be doing you guys a disservice if I gave you a stock answer, because that's a very, very important question that people have. Any other questions there? Any other questions? No. Okay, guys. It is about 7:30, so I might have to hop off. Please fill out the feedback form so I know how I did, and I know whether you guys want more talks like this or less talks like this, or what's the situation there. And also, there is another form for check-in, so make sure that's filled out as well, just so we know who's attending and what they're looking for. I'll link the check-in form in the chat as well. But chances are we're gonna stop the recording here, and then I'll send you guys on your merry way.
All right, go ahead and stop it.